Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host, Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Nicolas Khonaysser. Nick, welcome on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited.
Likewise, let's start with the big question. Who is Nick?
Nick is a traveler. Nick is an adventurer. Nick's a lover of community, a community builder. I would say Nick's a leader, but through and through, Nick's a founder at heart. But I think most importantly, Nick is a friend and Nick is a community builder.
Love it. And I especially resonate with the last two words you used because I've come to know you as a community builder and looking forward to being a friend for many years to come.
Thank you. I look forward to our friendship as well, especially with the added value that you add and the way you come in and add value right off the bat. We try to be the same way here.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Tell us about Bentley. What is it? What's the mission? What's the vision? And the word we like to use a lot, which is the impact you and the team have been able to create. And I know it's early days, but would love to hear a little bit about that. But as you do that, would love to get a sense for why do this and why do this now?
Yeah, I guess the story for Bentley in short starts long before Bentley, right? I was fortunate enough to be a student president at Arizona State and I got to manage around 144,000 kids. And a thing called COVID happened, so everything went on lockdown. And I said, how do I connect communities to the largest public university while everything's on lockdown? A company called Fizz was a company that I was helping growth with, and it was a social network for entire colleges. And people really loved engaging with their community, specifically on a college basis. We scaled that to 250 universities across the country. And one thing that we heard a lot was like, wow, I wish I had this type of community when I graduate, a respective city, whether I'm in Iowa, San Francisco, Los Angeles, or New York. And I came back to a city like San Francisco, a city that has so much culture, a city that's rich in events and community. And I saw so many communities on so many different platforms scattered out. I saw people using 7 different platforms to just discover events. And on the flip side, I saw amazing communities like San Francisco Women's Social Club or San Francisco Social Club or a Run Club or a Founders Club using also a stack of maybe 7 different tools just to be discovered or just to engage with their community. So in connecting communities, which is something that we've done very well, I wanted to build a platform to discover, to engage, to join. And I think in a post-COVID era, it's definitely been easy to capitalize on all the communities here in San Francisco, as well as the need that people have to, as humans, want to connect with amazing people. Like if you told me there was a guy like yourself that I have connected with that I could meet at an event, I would immediately want to connect. So I think connecting people and fostering not just a baseline connection, but a community driven connection has been a bit of what Bentley is and what's been at the fire of our hearts. So yeah, in a small nutshell what we've built in regards to being a social network for events, communities, and businesses to grow and engage and discover.
Love it. And I love where the energy comes from in building a community. And when you bring the right people together, magic happens. And
Ah,
I'm starting to get a taste of that with you guys. So amazing, awesome, congratulations. Um,
so magic happens.
Now, as you do this, you're bringing in many different personalities, many different brands, logos, people, everything in the mix. I'd love to hear what's the one big challenge you're facing.
Oh wow, great question. I guess every startup has its plethora of challenges, and I guess to go a bit off track in connecting communities, we thought the challenge was going to be a commitment. We thought the challenge was going to be like a yes from these big players, these big communities. And I was realizing it yesterday. I was thinking about this podcast one, and I was up at 5 in the morning, some ungodly hour, and I did as any other person does. I scrolled through Instagram, and I saw a reel by Steve Jobs, and he said when he was like 13 or 14 in the Valley and in San Francisco, he found it such a beautiful place because he could call the CEO of Hewlett Packard because his number was still in the phone book, and he said, I want to work for you. I want a job and I want parts because I'm going to build my own computer one day. And the CEO of Hewlett Packard drove to 14-year-old Steve Jobs' house, dropped off a bunch of parts, and then gave him an internship and then helped him grow Apple. And in that regard, what we thought our biggest problem would be was the commitment, the agreements for communities that have been using platforms for a very long time. But I found that everything from some of the biggest performers to the Golden State Warriors to some of the biggest VCs that their whole check is the size of our round currently. Just pick up the phone, call them, just send them an Instagram DM. And most of these people are so willing to engage in community and foster those connections that it's been a yes. So that's what we thought it would be. What our biggest problem is now is detaching people from the platforms that they've been using for the past 10 years. They want to, but it takes process. A lot of these people have communities of 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 subscribers that they've taken 10 years to build. Our value add and our differentiation in the product definitely makes them want to move over, but it takes time. And I guess in doing so, throwing events with them and slowly moving people over week by week is a bit of a painstaking process, but it's allowed us to understand communities more and grow a better relationship. And sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent, but
No, that's
it was a good
perfectly
one.
relevant. And as we know, we humans, most humans, don't like change. So I can understand how, especially if things are set for several years and we're talking large numbers, how people would be somewhat hesitant. But then on the flip side, they look at the tremendous value you guys are bringing in and
Yeah,
they get behind it. And I'm happy to see you're starting to see a lot of traction in that direction.
thank you, thank you.
Now, on the flip side of challenges come opportunities. What's the one that's most exciting for you?
Mhm. We talked about it a little bit before the call. One that has been exciting on a large scale level was a collaboration with the Golden State Warriors. Everybody knows the Warriors. Not in my life did I ever think I'd be a pre-seed company collaborating with the Warriors. All right, but I think if you look at basketball and you look at a team like the Warriors, and they're very much centered around community, just as many teams are. And if Steph Curry rolls his ankle and he's out a couple games and they're having trouble filling out a certain amount of people on a stand and they dedicate a section to us and they get community driven people who haven't really been to a game before, like myself as an immigrant. That was the first basketball game I ever went to in my life. That's a bit fun. But one at a core that makes me emotional, I saw it pop up on our platform the other day as I was scrolling through my platform. It was a toy drive. It was a big car community that I actually follow on Instagram that's doing a toy drive for underprivileged kids in low income communities in San Jose. And I thought that was so cool. I have the info of obviously the host. So I called the host. I was like, "Oh, this is Nick." And he was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm the founder of this thing called Bentley. You're using it. I see you doing a toy drive." He was like, "Yeah, I want to get toys in the hands of kids who wouldn't have a toy this holiday." And I was like, "You know what? Let me call a couple VCs. I'm coming with a crap ton of toys." And so now I'm back. I'm using the Suburban, and we get to just jump in there and bring a bunch of toys. And we moderate chats. So I saw in the chat, and they were like, "Yo, the founder of this platform is even coming now." And I thought that was so cool. I couldn't say I saw the chat, but I thought it was so cool from the flip side. And one that I'm excited to bring up is one that the industry show is going to be at, which is our VC super event, where we're bringing in the biggest VCs in San Francisco and in Silicon Valley to throw a mega event for founders and for investors with just a bunch of tier one high class partners, such as yourself, and tier one VCs. So I'll open the invite to anybody in the Bay Area listening. January 31st, mark your calendar. Bentley, Mantis, and some other big name partners will be there.
Congratulations again, and super, super excited for Jan 31st and looking forward to being a part of this. So
Yep.
now, as we look forward, I would love to pause and reflect and talk about two moments from your past life and career. One where things did not work out as you had expected, and there was failure, there were lessons, and another one where things exceeded your expectations and became a success beyond your imagination.
Yeah. So community, I call myself a community builder, I guess self-branded because it's what I love to do. I'd rather be a community builder than a CEO. I think a CEO carries like a big title. Who cares? I started a company in 2019 called Food for Hunger. And the elevator pitch was simple. We resource food from Fortune 500 companies, USDA, FDA supply it, FDA check them, and then give it out to shelters in the Bay Area that are low in need. We saw some traction, some really good traction, and then a thing called COVID happened, and the world stood still, and anything regarding food or the food supply was just not even a chance. So I guess that it made me question myself as a founder, made me question myself as an operator, but I did attribute a lot of it to a God factor of unforeseen circumstances. Understanding how to shut operations down without it hurting your own ego was a big part. Understanding how to pivot and how to take what you've learned and move it into a new chapter in life has been pretty good. And then obviously with Bentley, I think we fail so many times. I think I fail like 2 or 3 times a week, but you learn so much from those failures. And that's if you're not failing enough, you're not trying enough things. So I think that would be what I would give to any investor, any entrepreneurs. You should just fail, but if you fail forward. Understand why you failed. And then a place where I saw success, I went to Arizona State, student body of around 144,000. I wanted to connect communities again, so I ran for head of recruitment. And then in the time where COVID happened, again, it was a struggle recruiting kids at a large public university when like people were like, hey, we should recruit online. Running a hybrid mechanism between online and in person, we're able to get around a lot of those things. And we had the largest recruitment batch in ASU history for the year of 2020. So pushing the needle in the face of unforeseen circumstances by thinking out of the box has been a huge thing. And it led my way into running for president and being elected president. I think that's one that as an immigrant, as a kid who had gone to had started college late, I couldn't have seen myself getting that involved in the student body, and then going and getting 3 degrees from that university was also a blessing. Yeah, I would say that was a good success as well educationally.
I love your positive approach and outlook on everything. For all of us, COVID was a major block and
Yeah,
a life-stopping moment, but I see this as a COVID also obviously played a big role in your life, but
yeah,
each of those instances, you spun it and made something positive out of that. So really appreciate that attitude you have to not get stopped by any of these barriers and hassles that come in our way, but to come
yeah,
out ahead and stronger. So love that.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, I'd love to hear what do you do for fun to de-stress, to pause and just get off the treadmill for a bit.
This is going to sound horrible to any founder out there. And I guess I want to preface this by saying I run a social network, right? We're going to build a social network for events. So a lot of the things that we do are consumer facing and consumer forward. What does that mean? A lot of things that we do are in the face of VCs or in the face of other founders or in the face of our consumers. So what I do for fun is probably Bentley. I kind of live and breathe Bentley. Like this weekend, we're throwing a SantaCon rave. And there's multiple raves that are being hosted and thrown on our platform and events being hosted and thrown on our platform. Tomorrow, we're doing a collaboration with Tesla. And the collaboration, don't ask me why I put two and two together, but it's an open bar and free test drives of the Cybertruck and the, we'll call it, it's autonomous test drives. I was like, why not? And for me, I get to go to Tesla and I get to collaborate with Tesla, put my name on something, but I get also an open bar. We did a collaboration with JP Morgan, and that was like, some Michelin starred Indian restaurant in San Francisco, and they did like a deconstructed lassi punch bowl, and it was just absolutely amazing. That's fun for me, and that's I guess what I do on the weekend, what I do to de-stress. So I've definitely found a cool niche where like my work is my de-stress, and I've been able to incorporate everything about my personal life into my work. Like I play a lot of tennis, so we did a lot of collaborations with tennis communities. Now, if you were a founder of a CRM or a SaaS product or an AI different product, or you're building an LLM, I would totally understand that you, in the part-time, you have to go play tennis, you have to go and run, you have to go out to a bar. But it's very easy if the bar is running on my platform to use it as an excuse to go to the bar for due diligence purposes at 2 in the morning.
Love that. Love that. When your passion becomes your profession, there is
Yeah.
there's a lot of joy that it brings with it. Now, any podcast or a book that you would like and I'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Oh, this is a good one. I like the book Too Big to Fail. It puts into perspective a lot of it talked about the banking system in 2008, the collapse of the banking system, completely irrelevant to like what we do at startups. But in terms of like corporate entity and the small things that take a company into a breakdown, it's weird to read a book like that right now, but it's important as I check off the marks for how to scale a company. I listen to a good amount of Joe Rogan. I'm not too big of a fan of the Joe Rogan podcast. I'd rather take something that's more like information driven. And there's one other one. Oh, the book Super Founders. Amazing stuff. It details a very data-driven approach towards what makes founders successful and what makes founders repeatedly successful. And with us, we have a team of previously exited or previously successful founders on my team. Like our CFO sold the company for $80 million at 21. Our CTO built one of the largest consumers-facing apps in India and in the UK called Nearby. Scaled to around 14 million users in India, and he never stepped foot in India. So I think it's interesting to see some of those same things reflected in my team and then how to lead from that given what I get from that book. But I will say I listen to anything and everything Elon Musk while I'm in the car. If I'm not reading and I'm driving something, and I listen to a lot of early Steve Jobs stuff. I think once you hit this one threshold as a founder, motivation is like awesome. Like you're motivated, but I need something more on top of that. And I think Elon and Steve Jobs is very much out of the box thinking is awesome for me. And then I like listening to a lot of Sam Altman stuff as of lately because it very much applies to us, and he's in our backyard. So it's pretty awesome in that regard.
Thank you for sharing those recommendations. Now, on to my favorite part of the show. We call it the one line life lessons. Nick, would love
Yes.
you to share your life lessons with us.
In one line,
Yes, please.
I want to actually give something good here. So give me 1 second as I think of something
Sure.
here.
And here's the kicker, you get to share more than one.
Okay. One thing I'll share for a lot of founders. I don't know if it's a one-line life lesson. I don't know if it's a life lesson in regard, but if you're a founder, if you're a builder, it's something that I've lived by is what gets you here won't get you there. And if you're a pre-seed company, or if you're a seed company, or if you're an A company, what got you here won't get you there. But understand all those small things, the LinkedIn post that you do, the buffing up of the Instagram, the flyering in the city at a very early stage, that cold email that you sent out, every small thing is getting you closer and closer to that vision. You're like a loading bar and it's 1%, 1%, 1% every single day. And if you win that day, you won that day. And if you win the first half of the week and the second half of the week and you win that week and you win the next week, you win the month. If you compile enough of those weeks won and those months won, you win the year. But what gets you here won't get you there. And it's very much so always be pivoting. And then my one line here is a seed planted today will not yield a fruit tomorrow. So start planting some of those seeds. A lot of founders are very much in an early stage. A lot of founders who listen to podcasts are very much in an early stage. Plant those seeds. Don't expect them to yield a fruit tomorrow. But I guess the seed that I planted with is one that we had after I spoke at TechCrunch, and it'll yield a fruit for the industry show January 31st. And with any endeavors that we decide to collaborate on as you come to San Francisco and we support you and you support us coming down to SoCal. And don't just plant one seed. So I think that's two things that I've been living by very much lately.
Nick, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your story, and your life lessons with us. Really appreciate it. Again, congratulations for all of the successes so far. And
Thank
I
you.
know you and the team are just getting started, so many more to come. And looking forward to our continued partnership.
You'll be seeing a lot of us with the industry show, and you'll be seeing a lot of the industry show with us. So I look forward to it. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.